Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using more of the new fall release from Pretty Pink Posh. I have their winter mug dies, the new fall mug editions, stitch torn rectangles. For a sentiment, I'm using the hot foil Thankful script along with the Thankful shadow, and I'm also using one of the new stencils. This is Deco leaves. Waffle Flower recently sent me one of their grip mats. I have the 6.5 by 8.5 inch size. This is the very first time I'm using it, and I'll already say it's amazing. On my craft desk, I have a silicone mat. This is from scrapbook.com. I'll remove the transparent sheets from the front and back of the grip mat and place it on the silicone mat. I'll be stenciling on a sheet of pattern paper. This is from a retired Minte collection. I love that it already has the distressed look on the background. When I place the pattern paper on the grip mat, it's not going anywhere. Now I'll place the stencil on top of the pattern paper, pressing the edge of the stencil into the grip mat. And by using the grip mat, the stencil and the paper won't move, and I don't need to use any tacky tape to hold all my pieces down. I've only used Waffle Flower's grip mat one time, and I already love it. They do have several different sizes available. The ink color I used is Uptown by Catherine Pooler. I did an ombre look for the background with a darker teal color in the upper right-hand corner and gradually getting lighter to the lower left-hand corner. The stencil and pattern paper are easy to remove from the grip mat. And to clean the extra ink off of the grip mat, I simply used a baby wipe. Now I'll cut out this panel using the largest size stitch torn rectangle die. I'll put ATG tape on the back and also glue along the edge since it does have that stitch detail. Then I'll layer it on some teal cardstock. I'll flip over this piece, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4¼ inches by 5½ inches. I also cut out a smaller stitch torn rectangle from some vellum. I'll set that aside for now and start working on the mug. For the mug, I use the same teal cardstock as the background layer. This will be a mug of hot cocoa. I'm putting some marshmallows on a stick. The top portion of the marshmallow is cut all the way through, so you can easily pop that stick right through the top. I'll put some glue on the back side to hold the two die cut pieces together. Below the edge of the liquid inside the mug, it is cut all the way through. That way you can add different images and die cuts to make it look like it's inside the mug. I'll put the two sticks with marshmallows on the left side, and I also have a little leafy branch with red berries. I used a light teal cardstock for the branch and a nice rich red cardstock for the berries. I'll tuck in the branch on the left side in front of the marshmallows. I'll flip over the mug, put some double-sided adhesive tape behind the end of the branch and the wooden sticks. I'll remove the release paper. Now I'll add foam dimension on the back side. I'm using a roll of foam dimension from scrapbook.com, adding narrow strips all over the back side. And I will cut smaller pieces to fit behind the handle and also the marshmallows. Next, I'll decorate the front of the mug with a little scarf. I love all the fun stitch detail. I'll first add the portion of the scarf that wraps around the mug, or at least it looks like it does. Then I'll add the two ends of the scarf, and then finally the knot. The mug edition sets from Pretty Pink Posh have so many fun images, perfect for decorating up your mug, or you could use them separately. Now I'll remove the release paper and adhere the mug onto the vellum rectangle die cut. I'll first lay the vellum rectangle on the card so I can get the placement of the mug correct. I'll flip over that piece, put glue on the back just behind the die cut areas. That way the glue doesn't show through on the vellum, and I'll adhere it to the front of the card. I will place a large acrylic block on top for some added weight while the glue dries. For a sentiment, I've already hot foiled the word thankful, and I cut it out using the coordinating die. The Glimmer foil is from one of Spellbinder's variety packs. It's this beautiful teal color that matches the pattern paper. From the same teal cardstock, I cut out a second outline of the word, and I'll adhere the two together, creating a teal drop shadow underneath the word thankful. Now I'll put foam dimension on the back using some mini circle foam dimension from scrapbook.com. I have so many different partially used foam dimension sheets. I'm trying to use up some of those. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the sentiment right underneath the mug. Before adding the sentiment, I did lift up the vellum and put just a little bit of glue underneath. It's always good to have an extra area where the vellum is adhered. So there is my finished card, and I did make two using this design. I love how this card turned out. The teal, red, and white look so pretty together. For my second card, I'll be using the Acorn Shaker, the Fall Mug Editions, Stitch Torn Rectangles. For a sentiment, I'm using the Sentiment Strips Fall Set, and I have the coordinating sentiment strip dies. I will be making a shaker card and filling it with one of the new confetti mixes. This is the matte gold color. For the background of my card, I have some pattern paper from scrapbook.com's Cozy Autumn Collection, and I cut it out using the largest stitch torn rectangle die. I'll put ATG tape on the back and also glue along the stitched edge, then layer it on some brown cardstock. Put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. Using the same stitch torn rectangle die, I cut out a second piece from some white shimmer cardstock. This die set is already one of my favorites, and I know I'll be using it all the time. Now I'll start assembling the Acorn Shaker. I cut out, I think, 6 or 7 pieces of the bottom portion of the acorn. Most of them I use dark brown cardstock since it is a little bit thicker, but the very top of the acorn will be a yellowish orange color. I'll start off by adhering all of the brown pieces together, put glue on the back side and stack them up one by one, making sure they're all lined up perfectly. I'll place an acrylic block on top for some added weight to let the glue dry before I start assembling the rest of the shaker. I've already cut out a piece of acetate. I placed one of the acorn pieces on top of a sheet of vellum, used my scissors and trimmed it out. Now I'll adhere the acetate onto the brown acorn pieces. Then I'll put glue on the back of the top portion of the acorn piece and adhere them all together. Since the glue is still wet for the top portion, I'm making sure everything is all lined up nicely. Then I'll place an acrylic block on top and let that sit for a few minutes. Now, instead of all the cardstock layers, you could also cut this out from foam. I have a ton of cardstock scraps, so I thought this would be the perfect way to use up some of it. For the top portion of the acorn, I cut it out from the same dark brown cardstock I use for the background of the card. Instead of cutting several layers to put it at the same height as the shaker, I'll put foam dimension on the back. I'll lay the bottom portion of the shaker onto the card first, then adhere the top part of the acorn. Next, I'll add the confetti mix, putting a small portion in the area where the bottom of the acorn will be. I'm trying to make sure they aren't too thick, since I don't want them all getting stuck in the middle of the acorn. But I also don't want to spread them out too far, then I could accidentally glue one underneath the edge of the acorn. I'll put glue on the back of the shaker piece and adhere it onto the card, and some of those sequins did not want to cooperate. I had to take my tweezers and get some of them to lay down flat. I'll place an acrylic block on top for some added weight while the glue dries. Now those sequins move all around inside the acorn. To decorate my acorn, I'm adding a lovely sunflower. The sunflower and leaves are part of the Fall Mug Edition die set. I cut out 3 layers of petals for the sunflower. I'm curling up the petals just slightly for a little extra dimension, and I'll adhere all 3 pieces together, just offsetting them slightly for that very full look of petals. For the very center of the sunflower, I used a tan pearlescent cardstock. I'll first adhere the leaves before the sunflower. I'm also curling up the very end of the leaf for a little extra dimension. And I'll put glue on the bottom near the stem. I'm adding 2 leaves on the left side of the sunflower and 1 on the right side. Then I'll put glue on the back of the sunflower and adhere it in place. I've already stamped and cut out the sentiment Happy Fall. The sentiment strip's a little longer than I needed it, so I'm trimming off the very right side. I'll put glue on the back and tuck the right side underneath the flower. For a little extra detail on the sunflower, I'm adding Nuvo glitter drops. This is the yellow bird color, putting just a small drop on the end of each of the petals. Then for a final finishing touch, I'm adding some of the Espresso Pearls from Pretty Pink Posh. I'll put 3 in the upper left-hand corner and 2 in the lower right-hand corner next to the acorn. I'm using an embellishment wand to pick up the pearls, adding just a small drop of Barely Art glue, then pressing them in place. I think the brown espresso color works really well with this card, and I love that the mix includes a variety of different sizes. I do want to mention the pearls do not come in the little plastic container. I like to use those for storing my small embellishments. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love how this card turned out. The large sunflower on top of the acorn looks so pretty. Now here's another look at the 4 cards I made using some of Pretty Pink Posh's brand new fall release. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links provided in the description box below. I love making fall cards, and Pretty Pink Posh has an amazing new fall release. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.